Truth Unveiled here, and today I have a lot of information to share with you. We're going to be talking about all of the unprecedented weather patterns that have been going on these past couple of days, as well as all of the recent hurricanes and earthquakes, but we're also going to be talking about some very interesting and suspicious things indeed, such as the Arch of Triumph that's coming to New York, that and more to come. But I'm here at the Weather Channel, and it says Hurricane News. Tropical storm Hermine bears down on Gulf Coast, may be Florida's first hurricane landfall in almost 11 years tonight, because that's right, there hasn't been a hurricane landfall that has touched Florida since 2005. Very interesting that we're seeing them now at such a time as this. And here are some pictures and a montage of pictures that you can see of the storm. I'll leave all the helpful information in the description box below, but that's not the only thing that we've been seeing. Now, according to many reports, including reports from ABC, the storm in Florida has already affected more than 250,000 people in Florida alone, because more than 250,000 people are without power in Florida, and we know that this storm is supposed to affect the area of Florida this weekend with the state of emergency declared in certain areas and neighborhoods of Florida. But that's not all, because this was reported today actually, and it even says from ABC that Hawaiian Islands brace for possible Hurricane Lester impact. So we see a hurricane that's going on the west coast as well. And it says, with the second of two powerful storms churning across the Pacific toward a possible impact with Hawaii, officials are hoping residents take severe weather threats seriously after the islands escaped serious problems from the first storm, so a storm already impacted. The islands of Hawaii, Oahu, Maui, Lanai, Molokai, and Kahului were under a hurricane watch Thursday as Hurricane Lester surged closer to the islands. And I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but it goes on to say that the major Category 3 storm is on a track to pass just north of the island chain over the weekend, and its center isn't expected to make landfall. But if the storm veers to the south, it could have a much greater impact, said Ian Morrison, who's a meteorologist from the National Weather Service. And it says, our island is small enough that an event of this size could impact all the areas, said the Maui County Emergency Management Officer Anna Faust. We are a little concerned that people will not take this one seriously. This one looks like it's going to actually give us some significant impacts, and that's not the only one. But that wasn't the only thing either, because yes, there was also an earthquake that triggered off the coast of New Zealand, and this was actually reported today from the BBC when it says powerful quake off northeast New Zealand coast, and it was said to be a 7.1. But it says residents of a small community on the east coast of New Zealand's North Island have been told they can return to their homes after a severe earthquake at sea sparked the tsunami warning. The 7.1 quake struck about 105 miles northeast of Gisborne on Friday morning local time. Authorities asked people in the Talaga Bay to leave their homes. Some damage to property has been reported, but thankfully no injuries. The quake caused a tsunami, but it has no noticeable impact, an emergency worker told the New Zealand radio. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii tweeted that only an 8-inch wave had been measured, and of course local civil defense officials said it was now safe for the residents to return, but advised them to stay away from the beaches, streams, and estuaries, saying that the tsunami threat had not entirely lifted. So we see within a day period, within a 24-hour period, we have the storm that's triggering in the east coast of Florida. We also have Hurricane Lester in Hawaii, not to mention the powerful earthquake in New Zealand. But is that all? No, because there's always more, and I'm here at End of the American Dream for Michael Schneider, and as you can see the headline, it says, confirmed, the Arch of Triumph is going up in New York City on September 19th, approximately 5 months after it went up back in London at Trafalgar Square. And it says, do you remember all of the buzz about the arch from the Temple of Baal that was supposed to go up in Times Square back in April? And I reported on that. Well, that project was ultimately canceled, but now it has been resurrected in a new form. And no, it was not canceled. They just renamed the name. They just changed the name from Arch of Baal to the Arch of Triumph. That's all it did. But as you can see, they're putting it up in New York on September 19th, just a few weeks from now. And I'm going to prove that to you in just a second to come. Now, it's just very interesting and suspicious indeed that we're seeing all of these weather patterns trickle and transpire at such a level like we've never seen before, with weather events happening almost every single day now. Not to mention that the Arch of Triumph is just coming to America, and just so happens to be coming to America in a few weeks from now. And now I'm at the actual website, which is the Institute for Digital Archaeology, and this is the organization that's behind the Arch of Triumph that went up in Trafalgar Square in London as of April of 2016. And as you can see from a letter that they posted on their official website, they're now bringing it to America. And it says, "Dear friends, with many fond memories of our warm reception in London, we are now preparing to bring our reconstruction of Palmyra's triumphal arch to New York City on September 19th. Like London, the spirit of NYC is reflected in its architecture. Its soaring skyscrapers, a product of both audacious design and human courage, mirror the indefatigable and so quintessentially American character of the city." And as Salvador Dali once said, quote, "New York, you erect pyramids of democracy with the vertical organ pipes of your skyscrapers all meeting at the point of infinity of liberty," unquote. Sadly, also like London, New York has known loss of life and the destruction of familiar landmarks through violence. However, both cities rose again, a testament to the strength and optimism of their people. It is our hope that the arch, itself an icon of destruction and rebirth, will remind visitors of both the universality of suffering and the indomitable human capacity to rebuild what has been lost. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like what? Order out of chaos? Why are they constantly mentioning rebirth and everything? Destruction and rebirth, order out of chaos, just like we saw with the Olympics and the motto of the Olympics, rebirth, a new world. Is that what they're really getting ready for? And is that what all of this is symbolizing? That's exactly what it's looking like, especially with all the earthquake activity that we've been seeing, especially from last week, that's even carrying over to this week. Because I don't know if you can recall, but just last week we saw how many earthquakes, especially the one most notably in Italy too. Because here I am at Reuters and it says Italy quake toll hits 250 as rescuers search flattened towns. And mind you, this was a 6.2 earthquake that happened just on Wednesday, the 24th of August, and it says that the death toll from a devastating earthquake in central Italy climbed to 250 on Thursday as rescue teams scoured mounds of rubble for a second day in towns and villages that were flattened by the natural disaster. The 6.2 magnitude quake struck a cluster of mountain communities that were about 85 miles east of Rome early on Wednesday as people slept, which of course destroyed hundreds of homes, and there were dozens of emergency workers with sniffer dogs that clambered over the piles of debris, trying and attempting to find anyone that was still trapped, while cranes removed huge slabs of fallen masonry and trucks full of rubble left the area every few minutes. And just a few days later, after the initial earthquake just last week, actually, Italy had to declare a state of emergency in that region that was hit by the earthquake as of Friday, August 26th. And it says that the Prime Minister authorized a preliminary 50 million euro in emergency funding for the stricken zone, as the area was then hit by an aftershock, so by another earthquake, and it was hit by a 4.7 magnitude aftershock. And of course, they were still trying to find more people through the rubble and the debris of this affected area in the affected neighborhood. Not to mention, around the exact same time, there was also a giant earthquake that occurred in Myanmar as well, because this was a 6.8 and it occurred around the same day. And it says from BBC, Myanmar earthquake, 1 dead and temples damaged. And it says a 6.8 magnitude earthquake has hit